Hi there, this is a video that's been on my list of things to do for a long time. This is making paracord bracelets. And as well as this video, I've released several others at the same time, and I'll put the list in the description below. Now, there are loads and loads of videos on the internet about how to use paracord. Well, here's a little resume of why I think mine's got a little bit of credibility, if I may say so. The Cub supplement from 2012. That was an article about paracord keyrings. Scouting magazine from 2012. This was a general article on paracord. Bushcraft and Survival magazine, again from 2012. This was an article entitled Paracord Knitting. Bushcraft magazine from 2016, an article on making paracord people, which also included a Chinese button knot. Can you see the resemblance? There are lots of different paracords available to you, but for this video I'm going to be using paracord 550. So let's have a look at it. Why is it called 550? Now that is quite simple. There are 7 inner strands that all have a breaking strain of 50 pounds, and the outer core has a breaking strain of 200 pounds. So 7 times 50 is 350, plus 200 gives you 550 pound breaking strain. Right, we're going to kick off with the most basic of paracord bracelets using just scissors and a lighter. Very simple, but still surprisingly nice looking. And it's also going to introduce us to what is called the Cobra Weave, which is this knotting here.
The same knot that's used a lot in macrame projects.
First of all, you need to make a loop that will fit round your wrist with some spare here to tie a knot with. When you've got the paracord bracelet on, you really need to be able to just get a finger under, and that'll be about the right size for you. Once you've cut the paracord, you just need to seal the end using a lighter like this. Just beware, this stuff gets very, very hot.
And I can thoroughly recommend getting lighters like this with the push button at the back. Don't get the ones where you roll them, or else it'll just mash your hands to pieces.
And that's what you're aiming for, sort of rivet-like end there. If you leave the flame on too long, it tends to blacken it a little bit. If you don't, this is what the end looks like after time. So the knots you can do are a double knot overhand like that. So you basically formed an overhand loop doing that. Another one that you can use is the overhand, but you go through again like that, and it makes a double overhand, which is a bit of a clumpy knot to have to pull together. But this will be quite good if you've got your measurements wrong, but it's not the best one. And another elegant stopper knot is the figure of 8. Just measured it from the end of this knot here to the end of this loop, and it's about 7.5 inches. Now, we won't go right to the end, but I'm still going to count it as 8 centimeters, and then we're going to measure out the paracord to make the weave. So the amount of cordage here that I'm going to make the weave with is actually 8 feet. Every inch of weave needs a foot in length of paracord.
And I also have the added bonus of my foot literally being a foot or 12 inches long, so I can measure off the bottom. Even if it's not, you could still use it as a multiplier.
So just to demonstrate the technique, what I'm going to do is use a slightly smaller piece of red cordage, because otherwise the longer pieces go all over the place, hit the phone and everything. So what we're going to do, you can take either side to start with. You see it's under the loop there, and then we're going to go over the loop like that. We take the one on the other side, and that comes over the first piece there. It's going to go under the body, and then where there's this D shape here, this end is going to go through there, and that is all the Cobra Weave is. If you look at it, it's actually just an overhand knot. That's all it is. And then what we do is tighten that ever so slightly, and then we're just going to go again, and then we'll try the knot at the end for size. So this upright bit is the side you start on, and you alternate every time. So that comes across there, and this one goes down over the first one, and then underneath, and then we aim for that D shape there and pull. There you have your second turn. What we'll do, just put those ends through and the knot, see how it fits. It's not bad, but what I'm going to do is just slide that up a little bit like that, because you want to be some resistance there. Yep, I reckon that's about right, because paracord does have a natural resistance anyway. The next upright bit as we continue, now we've sorted the knot and the loop out, and then you just go this way and then this way and then this way, then this way until you get to the end. So I've swapped out that original smaller piece and put the longer one on, and I pulled it tighter as well, which makes the rows a lot neater and you get more on, because at the end of the day this is a survival bracelet. I know I've got room with the knot in situ through the loop, but one more turn like that. Now all it remains to do is cut these ends off here, here and here. So just light the end, gently tap it. Now I've set out here to make the most basic paracord bracelet just using knots, and the only tools I've used is a lighter and a sharp pair of scissors. Now I'm going to seal these here again as we've done with these ends here, but later on you can actually put the ends in here, but you'll need another tool to do that. There we go, that's your finished bracelet. So it is supposed to be the most basic paracord bracelet, but this is one alternative you can do instead of a knot, one of these little stopper things like this. Now, having done a simple one just using knots, we're now going to move on to buckles. This was the very first base that I made for using buckles. You really do need something like this because they are a bit fiddly otherwise. But this is the one that I normally use now, my latter day one. It's got measurements on there in inches. It's got two types of buckle there, and also for making a slight variation, it's got these screws in as well. This bolt here means it's adjustable, so you can spin it around for large or small. And then this one here is adjustable, so you can actually get the length that you want in here. So I've set this for what my wrist is, so it's just about 7.5. Here we can see that there's a male and a female coupling on both of these, and we're going to be loading the paracord through them. You can get all sorts of sizes in the clips. This is just a small representation, but these ones here are probably better for belts, because with these big ones you can go in and back and then start at the other end, and you can get so much paracord on, but they start to look rather big. You've got to load the two halves of the clips. I've started with the female one here first, but it doesn't matter which way around you do this. Now this knot, I put the loop through and push the ends through the loop. This is called a lark's head, or a cow hitch sometimes. Now the difference between this and the simple one is that's sort of like my 7.5 inches for my wrist, but instead of doing a separate piece, we've got all this attached to the end, and that's going to go through the other half of the clip. And we'll just attach the female bit. Now I've also loaded the other half of the clip in and put these in. And we're just going to pull those through until we get them taut like that, and then we're ready to go. And here's the thing, it's just the same weave as before. Now I've finished that quite quickly, and then obviously we can just seal these as before at the ends here, but I'm going to introduce you to a new tool. Paracord needles come in a pair, and at one end it's threaded, and what you do, you thread the paracord into it, and this will get you into gaps that you would not stand a chance by just pushing it with your fingers. And if you can't get hold of the needles, a pair of thin pliers are very good as well. There's a whole host of other tools and sealers and whatnot that you can buy. I mean, it's obviously you what you want to do with that sort of stuff, but these tools that I'm just showing you, they're enough for me. And now you can see here, this end piece I push back through the weave. So what we'll do is pull that tight, and then we can just tidy that up, cut it there and seal it so it'll actually be underneath. There we go, with both of them in situ just here. So this is the end I finished on without the marks here. You can see they're further down. But what I've done with these, I've purposely pushed and flattened them because you don't want those catching on your skin. Job done. And now on to the next one. Just the same as before, but we're going to be using two different types of paracord. To make a coloured paracord bracelet is very easy. It's just the same as the other one. But instead of having, say, 10 feet, which you'd have with the other one, you have two pieces that are 5 feet. What you have to do here is line the ends up together, put the lighter underneath them, and then put the ends together very quickly like that to seal them to make one continuous length. Now you've got a choice with the other one that I did, whichever way you want to load it, but this one has to be loaded like this, because the reason is you've got the seal bit on the inside so it's not showing. This is the end where the cut piece is hidden, but this one I've chosen to put them in through the top. I just wanted to do that because I think it's a good way to start, but you just do the Cobra Weave till you reach the end. And as before, we're just going to use the old knitting needles and just hide the ends. And then we're going to do the snip and seal. And the final paracord bracelet I'm going to do is going to be a slight variation on a theme. It's going to use these screws here, and there's also going to be a bonus knot at the end. The measurements for this are just the same, but what you do is you loop it round this single screw here, run it out to your desired length to these two screws here, and then you start doing the Cobra Weave down the length. And then at the end here, you leave a tiny little loop just big enough to push the two strands through. When you get to the end, this is what you'll be left with. What we're going to do is stick these two ends through this one here and then through these two here. It's the first through the single hole, and that's the length individually through the two holes there. You might need those knitting needles if you've made the holes quite snug. And as you finish one there, it's sort of like a variant of the first one really, but that knot is a Chinese button knot. The link to make one of these is in the description to go with the video. Now, one other little embellishment you can do is actually when you're making your paracord bracelet, put a single length down the middle like this, leave it to overlap so you can tuck the ends in, and it makes quite a nice little feature on there. Talking of embellishments, you can get all sorts of beads and skulls and compasses and whistles to go with making paracord bracelets. It's how far you want to go down the rabbit hole really. That's what you get through the middle with a little bit of embellishment. Subtle hint there. Ends tucked in like that. And again, I've finished this one off with a Chinese button knot. You can also look at using hairbands instead of paracord through the middle. Something to weave around, but you do get a little gap here, although it does give you the flex to get it on like that. Just a final note on the weave. This is the Cobra Weave, and if this didn't have a macho enough name, this one here is the Super Cobra Weave. And basically it is this one, same pattern, but you go over it with a second layer. To be honest, there's loads of variations on a theme, and I could go on all day with all of those, to be honest. But this will give you a good insight into how to get started. And I thought I'd just finish off with the paracord bracelets that I did in the Bushcraft and Survival Skills magazine. That's the one you've seen in the video with the hairbands. That's a standard one. This one's made out of raffia with some African beads. This one is one made out of stuff that I found on the beach. And again, another standard one. That's one of your little embellishments. That's a little compass that I got on there. This is one of your variations. This is a Solomon bar. Again, you've got several colours going on in here. And again, another standard one and another standard one. Thanks for watching.